Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Tornado Talk, a discussion on peace, justice, and healing. We're typically here every Monday night to discuss Brevard College athletics. However, tonight we're devoting the entire show for us to have an important conversation to discuss how we can be part of a solution to put an end to racial violence, inequality, discrimination, and injustice that has plagued the United States. My name's Phil DeMont-Mullen, Sports Information Director at Brevard College, and we're joined today by 5 special guests. First, Destiny Williams, women's basketball student athlete at Brevard College. She's a rising senior from Aiken, South Carolina. Destiny was named this past season to the USA South All-Sportsmanship team. On the court, she led the Tornadoes with 8.1 rebounds per game and averaged 10.5 points per game, the second straight year she has averaged double figures. Off the court, Destiny is an outstanding student and a USA South Conference All-Academic Performer with distinction by earning a GPA of over 3.90 each semester. She is majoring in health science with a pre-veterinary concentration and a minor in coaching. And she's also a representative of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, also known as SAAC. Destiny, welcome to the program.
Good evening, everybody.
Great to see you. Next up, on most of your screens on the bottom left corner, is Sharad Creasman, campus minister at Brevard College. Sherrod became Brevard College's full-time campus minister on July 1st of 2016. Prior to Brevard College, he was pastor at Columbia Drive United Methodist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. A native of right here in Brevard, he holds a bachelor's degree in religious studies from Brevard College and a Master of Divinity with a concentration in ethics from the Morehouse School of Religion. He also holds a Master of Theology from Emory University. A chaplain in the U.S. Air Force Reserves, Sherrod has also been a guest chaplain at the United States Senate, opening the U.S. Senate floor in prayer in March of 2017. Sherrod, thanks for joining Tornado Talk.
So glad to be here.
Next up, Dee Dasburg, Associate Dean of Students, Coordinator for Counseling Services at Brevard College. Dee holds a Master's of Science degree from Western Carolina University in Clinical Mental Health Counseling and a bachelor's degree in English from the King's College. A National Board Certified Counselor, she's licensed to provide supervision to candidates seeking counseling licensure in the state of North Carolina. She is the supervisor to master-level counselors who provide service to Brevard College students. Dee, thanks for joining the program tonight.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Next up is Brevard College head women's basketball coach Donald Hudson. Coach Hudson's entering his 5th season at the helm of the Tornadoes women's basketball program and his 10th year overall working for Brevard College athletics as he began his coaching career following graduation from BC in 2011. Coach Hudson was a very successful dual sport student athlete, playing both football and basketball while at BC. During his 2009 and 10 season at Brevard, he was a key part of the men's basketball team that captured the program's first ever bid into an NCAA tournament. Coach, great to see you.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, everyone.
And our 5th panelist is Stephanie Johnson. She's Brevard College Assistant AD and Senior Woman Administrator. This academic year, she'll begin her 2nd full year as the Assistant AD and SWA at Brevard College. She was named SWA by BC Director of Athletics Miranda Nash back in February of 2019. She came to BC from Delaware Valley University, where she served as Assistant AD. She has experience coaching volleyball and in women's basketball operations for NCAA D1 University of Memphis. She was an NCAA Division I volleyball student athlete at Coppin State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and is a member of several national organizations active in the Women Leaders in College Sports, NACDA, which is the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics, and the Minority Opportunities Athletic Association, to name a few. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Sports Management from Coppin State and a Master's of Science in Sports Commerce from the University of Memphis. Stephanie, thanks for joining the program.
Hey, y'all.
All right. Well, great to see you all, and thanks for gathering for these important topics that we're going to be discussing tonight. We're going to get started with a question for each of you, and we'll start with our student athlete who's with the group this evening, Destiny Williams. Destiny, as a student athlete, what has been you and your teammates' reaction these past weeks with the protests that have occurred following the multiple examples of racial injustice here in our country?
Well, we have a group chat with my teammates, and we haven't really spoken on the actual matter, but especially a lot of my teammates, they definitely have been active in the protests. They were active on Instagram, social media. Instagram had a day of total blackout where you just post a black picture and, hashtag anything. And I definitely saw a few of my teammates posting on that. Me personally, I've been trying to keep up with the news a little bit while trying to work it also. And I just feel like there's just something that was coming. Like, there's been times when there have been cops killing blacks, and we have had smaller protests or even bigger protests. But from my knowledge, this is the biggest one that I've seen in a while. And I feel like it's just a thing that was just a long time coming. It was just something, the inevitable. Colin Kaepernick, he was the one who started it by kneeling on the ground, and more people are finally realizing why he did that, what he was standing for. And it just, things are just finally coming to light about the situation that we do have in the world, this injustice that nobody really wants to talk about, but it's here now. We have to talk about it if we ever want to get past this.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Destiny. Appreciate that answer. The next question is for our campus minister, Sharad. Sherrod, you and Brevard College President David Joyce led a special event at the Bell Tower last week for the campus community. The community gathered, reflected, stood in solidarity during these difficult times. Can you describe that event and what you believe was accomplished?
So that event simply was the opportunity to gather, to add voice to our grief and our pains and our desires and our longing for something more, something better. And it was the place to gather as a community and to speak as college minister and president and to gather the community. From that, we've been able to articulate some things about how people feel. What should we be doing? How can we do it? Or at least I feel this way about it. And so it's created the space to have conversation and to hopefully move forward in a positive way.
Thank you, Sharad. Next up, a question for Stephanie Johnson. As the senior woman administrator and assistant AD here at Brevard College, and as someone who's very connected and networked through college athletics, why is this an important topic for college athletics?
Well, we all know that sports bring people of all kinds together. And here we are, first and foremost, in higher education. We're here to educate. So I feel like the best place to educate is with college athletics, where we're already bringing several different kinds of people together. Why not talk about something when you have your athletes' full attention for at least 2 hours? Like, at the end of the day, we're higher education and we're here to educate. That's why I feel it's important.
Thanks for that, Stephanie. And I do want to share on my end of things. I'm a sports information director at Brevard College and in college athletics as well. I've done it most of my career. And at this time, the Co-SAAC, which is the College Sports Information Directors of America, is having its national convention. We're doing it virtually. But the Co-SAAC president pointed out a number that got a lot of our attention who are in the sports information profession, which is less than 10% of sports information directors across the country are people of color. And so we're trying to do things in our area to make that number change in a positive direction. Stephanie, do you have some input on kind of that side of things as far as opportunities go?
So for Division 2 and 3, there are a lot of opportunities. Myself, I got to be a part of the Women's and Ethnic Minority Grant with Division 3, and that's how I got into Division 3 and now here, because I met Miranda through a mentorship. But if I hadn't have gotten that grant to be a part of a university and get my foot in the door, I would have never been a part of that. I know they now have like assistant coach grants where they're like, you can only hire a minority because they know that the numbers are low. Myself, I looked it up, and in 2019, there were 50 Black assistant ADs in Division III, and it just shocked me that I'm one of 50. That's out of like at least 300 schools. I'm one of 50, and that's just mind-boggling.
Great. Well, thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad we're shining light on subjects such as that. Next up, Coach Hudson, sticking kind of with this college athletics theme. You're the leader of student athletes, and is there a message that you provide to your players with on this topic, either continually, over your years as head coach, or kind of in this moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My message to any team that I'm the head of, that I've been the head of and will continuously get the head of, it's just stay united. Stay united. Anybody that knows me, you see me, I'm walking around campus and you see me throw this up, that means love. That means love. That's who I am. And that's what I want my team to bring to this whole situation. So I wanted them to know that. Stay united. Stay united. When the time comes, for college women's basketball, we're going to do our part to help the movement and everything. I wanted them to know that, stay united. And I also wanted them to know that the feelings that they have when watching the murder of George Floyd up in Minnesota, those feelings, it's okay to feel that rage and be upset and be fearful a little bit. Anybody that didn't have those feelings watching that video, you're on the wrong side of this fight, And so I wanted my team to understand that it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to feel like that when you watch somebody be murdered in cold blood like that. And I'm here. That's my biggest thing. My team will always know. They'll always tell you, Coach Hud has your back in any situation. I'll stand with you. I'll stand for you. And I'm always here. That was the message that I conveyed to my group as this whole incident unfolded.
Thank you very much, Coach. Thanks for shedding light on that. Dee, in your role as both Associate Dean of Students and Coordinator for Counseling Services, what do you feel is your responsibility to Brevard College students and the campus community with regards to this topic of racial inequality?
Yeah, I feel a tremendous responsibility, and I'm really fortunate. The campus where we all work together, when I was invited to this discussion, I know everybody here, and it's because we're a small campus community. We connect with each other. We care about each other, and I'm super fortunate to work with a group of campus life folks. We're the people that sort of work with the students outside of the classroom, supporting them in their learning, supporting them in their personal growth and development. And, I have a great sense of responsibility as a counselor and as an associate dean to make sure that our students feel emotionally and psychologically safe. I have a sign in my office that says, "Your story matters." And I want students to know that whatever's going on, whatever they're up against, people need a place to unpack their stories, talk about what's happened in their lives, talk about what's going on in their lives, and get the support that they need. I also feel a tremendous burden, especially with everything going on in our country right now, to make sure that we really intentionally create opportunities for dialogue. When our students get back on campus in the fall, I want them to know that we want them to talk about this. Because I think a lot of times in a community, people aren't sure if it's okay. They don't know who they might be with, especially our new students who don't yet know Brevard College. So I think the more overt we are in creating opportunities for dialogue, naming what the issues are, naming what our concerns are, and inviting students to talk with us about anything that's on their mind, that's going to be awesome. We have success mentors. I think they're going to get that same kind of training. Go there with the students, ask them how they're doing, especially our students of color, especially our Black students, because we're predominantly a white university. I think our percentage is about 14% Black, 9% Hispanic. We're about 66% white. So we definitely, there's a representation on our campus, and we have to make sure that we take the lead, especially I feel like as a white counselor, to say, you want to talk to me, come talk to me. I also think it's really important to teach people to listen between the lines. In other words, hear what the person may not be saying and take a risk and ask a little bit more, invite more conversation, ask for clarification. And we're also going to we do this every year. We do online education before our students even get to the campus. And we use a program called Safe Colleges. And one of the educational programs we give them is to raise diversity awareness. So we'll be reintroducing that program again. They'll get it this summer before they get here. And it kind of walks them through issues of diversity and awareness. I have a feeling State Colleges is probably going to bump up that program a little bit in light of everything that's been happening as well. I also think one more thing, it's important to encourage students to really pay attention to their own perception of what they think is happening so that they know they can check out their perception, because sometimes misunderstandings happen and there can be conflict that grows out of misperception. And in counseling services, we offer mediated services. And I think mediation is a very powerful tool to help people get clearer conversation with one another.
Thank you for that, Dee. Valuable information there. And you mentioned something, your story matters, and perfect segue to what we want to try to accomplish here, which is for each of you to have the opportunity to tell a bit about yourself and perhaps something that has either occurred in your life or perhaps something that you've witnessed where we can shine the light, very candidly and very brightly on what's going wrong here, the social injustice that's happening all around us. So I want to give you each the opportunity, perhaps tell a personal story, an anecdote, or something that you may have witnessed or even heard secondhand. But we do want to shine light on these stories. Just like Dee said, your story matters. And once again, we'll start with our student athlete, Destiny Williams. Destiny, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, this story is not really like a straight racial story, but I feel like there's a lot of bias toward people of color. Like there are times when people really don't know. Actually, like you said before, that I do have a 3.9 GPA. They see me as the person that's only maybe good at sports. They don't realize that I actually take care of business in the classroom all the time. So when people realize, yes, you got a 4.0, but yes, like I actually do what I'm supposed to do. Like I'm not just one of these people who come to school just to play sports. Like I come here to get my work done. Also, like family, like we live in a predominantly white, not really white neighborhood, but a white community. And even my sister said one time she's going downtown and going into a store with my cousin, and they just felt out of place because the people who own the store kind of looked at her different, trying to figure out, like, why are these people in here, or maybe we don't see these type of people that come in the store often. A while back, a few years ago, I think my freshman year, I had an uncle. He had one of his dogs and his two puppies. And while he was at work, the dogs had got out. So he's rushing home to come get the dogs. And when he gets there, he finds out that the police shot one of his dogs and kept the other two puppies, then arrested him for saying that he had domestic violence towards the dogs. Now, he had no knowledge that the dogs was going to get out. And the dog that they shot was the nicest dog that I know. And the dog would have never hurt anybody. But they got this bias that, one, they're pit bulls, so they probably was going to hurt them when the dog was like, if you call a dog and the dog comes running towards you, it's not that the dog's going to bite you. It's rather that the dog is coming towards you. So now you have this bias that, okay, the dog is going to hurt me. This man might possibly hurt me for shooting his dog, so why not arrest him? I haven't had any conflicts with police in my life, but going through life, it's kind of hard, trying to think about, like, dang, when is the next time that something that close to my friends or even my family members, like, what if something this unjust might happen to them? Like, how would I feel? Like, what could I do about it?
Great. Thank you, Destiny. Really appreciate that answer. Sherrod, the floor is yours.
Thank you. There's a lot of things that come to mind for me, but I'll pick one that happened the closest to me. I get the closest. Before this virus happened, a classmate and I at Clemson University in a doctoral program, we were talking, and she's a very sharp individual, and we wound up getting into an elevator together, and there was a gentleman, an older white male, that got into the elevator with us, and he looked at the both of us and he said, "What are you all doing here?" And we looked at each other, and my classmate said, "Hey, we are finishing up class." And he said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she said in return, well, we're trying or we're finishing PhDs. The man said, 2 Black people doing PhDs. I looked at him, she looked at him, said yes. So he returned and said to this lady classmate, are you one of the female sprinters from this university? Did you win a gold medal? And she said, why would you think that? And so he continued to say, let's just go ahead and say that you're one of these women who's a phenomenal sprinter, and I'll discount everything else you do. And so he said that. My classmate, of course, got upset, and he walked off. Of course, it created more conversation about the reality that while she was sharp, educated, doing great things, great leadership, she was viewed simply as someone who could run fast. And she was very upset by that.
Thank you for that, Sharad. Stephanie, would you like to share a story?
Yes. So I played volleyball, and hopefully everyone knows that's a white sport. So I'm used to being the only Black girl on the team or having like one other teammate. So my junior year in high school, I played club ball, which is like AAU for basketball. And we had a sleepover at my coach's house. And all my teammates were going to go take down road signs, which we all know is illegal, but high school, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I want to go. So we go outside, and one of my teammates, she looks at me and she says, well, Stephanie, we don't think you should go because it's dark and you're dark. And I stood there in shock, like, what? And nobody said anything. And then I remember going in the house, finding whatever room I was sleeping in and crying. And like, to this day, I don't know why I didn't say anything or I didn't just go home, right? I could have just went home. I lived 10 minutes away. That really impacted me. I have a very recent story though. So Bailey, the former assistant volleyball coach, and I, we hang out a lot. In February, we went to Marshall's, and I think we went somewhere else. And this happened in Marshall's and the other place. Like, we would be walking around, and the lady would walk up to her and go, do you need any help? And Bailey would be like, no. And then she'd walk away. And then Bailey would look at me and go, you never talk to me. And so after the second time, I said, Bailey, did you notice she didn't say anything to me? And like, she's just like, because, you know, like, you're not going to realize it because it's not happening to you. But now, like, in this stage where we're at right now, I'm going to start saying, excuse me, ma'am, I don't need any help either. Thank you. You know, I'm going to start speaking up because I'm not invisible and I'm not going to be treated as such. But I just wanted to share those two. I thought they were very like impactful on my life. And the last one that was very recent, I'm still holding on to it.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Stephanie. It's impactful for people like me to hear it as well. So thank you for that. Coach Hudson, floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Like my brother Sherrod said earlier, there have been different incidents that have happened throughout my life. I'm 32 years old, but the one that stands out the most happened here in Brevard. It was when I was a student here. I'm a college student here at Brevard. I was with one of my good friends, a lifelong friend of mine. A guy we still talk to this day. We were talking last week on this, actually. And we were going to a local restaurant in town. And it's a restaurant where you kind of seat yourself. You go in, you sit down, and someone comes around to serve you. So we go in, we sit down, and we're talking. Time goes by, a few minutes go by, we're noticing that people are coming in after us, and they're getting served and getting food and having water and everything. And we don't have anything. No one's come and said anything to us. And so after we noticed that, one of the waiters walks by, and I kindly, everyone here knows me, I kindly raised my hand just to get her attention. And she snapped at me, like snapped at me. I can't remember the words that she used, but her tone. The tone is what stands out. And like, she left, another waiter came in right behind her and tried to take our order. But at that point, like, who wants to sit and enjoy a meal after that? Like, we were in there for at least 15 to 20 minutes with no service, you know. And at that point, I realized that this is a racial act. This is something that we're being discriminated because I'm here. If he was here with another, he's a white guy. If he was here with another friend, I'm pretty sure we had service and everything. But we got up, we left, and we just talked about this a few weeks ago. And I didn't know that was his first time being around that. That was his first time experiencing an act of racism. And like, looking back at it, like Stephanie said, you have some regrets. Maybe I said something to her, maybe not. But the mild-mannered, even-keeled person that I am, I just got up and walked out. Maybe I should have addressed it with a manager or something. That was something that sticks with me and will forever stick with me. It's that I didn't get served because of the color of my skin.
Thanks for that, Coach. Dee, is there anything that comes to mind as far as your experience goes, something you may have witnessed over the years?
Unfortunately, there's too many things that come to mind, and it's really hard to hear these stories because it kind of cuts into my heart a little bit. So I had to sort of say, okay, which one do I want to share? Because there's so many instances. Even listening to the previous stories, it brings to mind other things that I've been aware of or witnessed. So I want to really share two, kind of like Stephanie did. And Stephanie, I'm glad you're saying I'm speaking up from now on. I don't want to be invisible. I think that's awesome. I work with young women at the college, and we're always talking about find your voice, use your voice. So I moved. I've been at Brevard College since 1994. And don't do the math on your fingers. And I actually moved to the town of Brevard in 2001. And that spring or early summer, I was out doing some yard work. I bought a house. That was kind of a big deal for me then. And my neighbor from across the street came over, and he sort of was chatting me up, and he was kind of looking at the property. And in the corner of my property, out by the street, there's a small, what I would call a scrub pine. It's just, a little pine tree. Nothing that I could see anything special about it. I don't really know a lot about pine trees, but anyway, he points to the pine tree and he says, "You know what we call that?" And I had no idea where he was going. And I said, "What?" And he said, "We call that an N, pine." He used the word. And he could have slapped me. I could not have been more shocked or stunned if he had reached out and just slapped me across the face. And I just stood there. And he said, "You know why we call it that?" And still shocked, I said, "No." He said, "Because it don't belong here." And again, I was so stunned. I didn't know this man. He didn't know me. And in that moment, I said, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm living across the street from somebody who's racist, who has an issue with Black people and thinks they shouldn't belong here." It was a deep cut. And, all these years later, my voice is a lot stronger. I think I could have I don't know if I could have a productive conversation. So I don't know, maybe I was a little afraid, but I was more stunned that happened. And that has carried with me through life. Another thing that happened was I had a young man that I worked with at the college, and he was growing out his hair. And, sometimes it's a little work to grow out your hair if you're Black. And so, but he had this big, beautiful afro, and he picked it and get it really big. And everybody knew who he was, and he was an athlete, and everyone just loved him, and he was very sociable. And I had a really good relationship with him because we got to know each other even before school started during the summer. So he walks into my office one day, and his hair was gone. I said, what happened? And he said, he's dead serious. He said, "I shaved it off." I said, "Why?" Because he kept bragging about his hair to me, I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, I was driving through town and a cop began following me, and I saw him, and I was thinking, I'm not doing anything. And the cop put on his lights, pulled him over, asked him questions, let him go. Just was, curious. Oh, where are you going? Oh, what are you doing here? And he said, I go to Brevard College. I'm just going to, so he let him go. It made him so uncomfortable. He shaved his head, and it really hurt me. And I made some comments to him about that, how I didn't think that was fair and it was wrong. And he shouldn't have cut his hair off because somebody, had an issue with it and it's his hair. And he looked at me and he said, well, I got to apply for a job anyway, and I'm not going to get hired if I have big hair. So, and again, that was just the second lesson from the same student of what his life was like. And I think sometime around that time or previous anyway, there's an artist called India Ari, and she wrote a song. I think she wrote it, but anyway, she sings it. I am not my hair. I am not my skin. I am not your expectation. And then she goes on to say, I'm the soul that lives within. You got to look at the inside. So those two were very defining moments in my life for at least during the last 20 years.
Wow. Thank you, Dee, for sharing those stories. Powerful. We're going to take on a few topics for discussion, sort of some hot button type items, and would love to hear what the panelists think of some of these areas of discussion. Do want to let the Facebook Live audience know that we want this to be an interactive experience. If something comes to mind and you'd like to ask a question to our panelists, feel free to do that, and we'll get to the questions towards the end of the program. Or if you have a comment that you'd like to share as well. Appreciate you all being there live on Facebook Live. So let's take on some of these topics, guys. First up, there's a lot of discussion over the slogan Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. You hear people getting into contentious debates about the two slogans or hashtags. And Coach Hudson, maybe you can kick us off on this one. Why is this an important distinction in that we emphasize now, today, and probably for the foreseeable future until things change, the Black Lives Matter movement?
For sure. When you hear the Black community or anybody that's with the movement say Black Lives Matter, it's not saying that Black lives should be the superior race or anything, or we're more important than the next race. It's saying stand with us as this social injustice takes place right in front of you. It's saying that stop routinely killing us, pretty much. Stop routinely killing us without any punishment. It's not saying that all lives don't matter. In the grand scheme of things, do all lives matter? Absolutely. Yes, but we're the most victimized group of the social injustice and the systemic racism. Blacks are the butt of that for the most part. George Floyd is just the last name of a long list that it's a huge list. From the Trayvon Martin to the Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile. It's a ton of names that have just been killed for nothing. All unarmed people that didn't pose a threat to anyone. It's just the color of our skin. And when we say Black Lives Matter, that's what we mean. We're trying to bring the focus to the Black community and just so everybody sees what's happening. It's not saying that we're better than anyone. It's not that at all. It's just trying to help us get this point across, that this is what's happening and everybody sees it. So stand with us. And when some people say all lives matter, they may think it's something that brings everybody together or something of solidarity, but it's not. It takes the focus away from the most victimized groups of these things that we're talking about. So when Black Lives Matter, it's not a shot at anyone. It's just saying right now, and for the past and things that have happened, we're the group that is victimized of it the most. So it's not saying it's a superior race, like I said earlier, but it's stand with us. That's what we're saying.
Well said, Coach.
Phil, they've been protesting in Brevard, y'all. I shot the first time I saw it. I think I almost started crying. I was so emotional. Like Brevard, North Carolina, 8% black, they protesting all the white people. Shocked. The other day I drove by, because they protest like every day, y'all. There was a sign and it said, all lives cannot matter until Black Lives Matter. And I was just like, exactly. That's why we say it. It feels like I was invisible in the store. I do not matter to that lady. So until we all matter, then we can't all matter. That's it.
I saw a post on social media the other day about this situation, and it was like, if there's a row of houses and there's one house burning, the firefighter's not gonna water hose all the houses, going to water hose down the house that's on fire. And the house that was on fire is obviously the symbol of Black Lives Matter. Like, yes, all of the houses could possibly be washed down with the water hose, but which house is the most important? Which one needs to be, the attention needs to be on? And I feel like that's a really good symbol of looking at Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter.
Anything to add to that, Sherrod or Dee?
I just had a visual go through my mind. I worked at a camp up in the Adirondacks, and we always, when we'd make fires in the pine forest, we always told the kids, dig a deep pit, put in lots of sand, because if you just make a fire on top of the pine duff, which is, many feet of compressed pine needles over time, that feels like ground, but it's actually very flammable, you're going to have an issue. And just listening to what Stephanie was saying, I feel like, or the house on fire, I guess, Destiny, you made me think about that, getting all that support, seeing all this coming back up, and then the house is on fire, we got to put the fire out. And I'm thinking about, the civil rights movement was 60 years ago, right? It's crazy. I mean, well, Rosa Parks, 60 years ago, she was making a statement. I was just thinking about that. And it's like the fire went out and everyone was like, okay, we're good. And they had no idea that all the roots underground had caught fire in the forest. And now we've got this blazing forest fire in our country that has gotten our attention. So it's great. I think it's great. Like, let's start attending to the fire at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for that, Dee. Sherrod?
I echo what everyone has said. Exactly my sentiments as well. And Black Lives Matter is adding voice where we refuse to be silent. Something has to be said and done. So I echo what everyone has said.
Thank you. There's a powerful image going around social media with a young girl holding up a sign, and the sign says, "We said Black Lives Matter. We never said only Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
We know all lives matter, but we just need your help with Black Lives Matter, for Black lives are in danger."
Mm-hmm.
Powerful image there of a sign being held up at a protest. But thank you all for your input on that topic, which brings us to our next topic, and we'll let Dee kick us off on this one. Colin Kaepernick, who was mentioned earlier in the program, kneeled during the national anthem at NFL games and was subsequently sharply criticized by many and shut out, for years from future opportunities by NFL owners. In retrospect, as a society, how should the Kaepernick situation been handled better? And what did we learn from him?
Yeah, in thinking about that, I've done a lot of thinking about Colin Kaepernick and what he started back in 2016, really unbeknownst, I think, to many, many people. So I want to make a comment about that first before I comment on how I think it should have been handled differently. He chose a really huge platform as a professional athlete, and his teammate, Eric Reed, I don't know if people know that aspect of the story, but those guys talked together. They were both feeling the same way because they were just seeing so many instances of Blacks being killed unfairly. And Eric Reed really leaned into the Bible where it says faith without works is dead. And, they said, let's just use this platform where you got all these people, you got 60,000 people in the stadium, and you got all these people tuning in all over the country for football. Let's kneel, because, that's not disrespectful. If anything, that's kind of a sign of reverence. And, we're just taking a knee to say, hey, we want to draw attention. And they said it was almost like putting the flag at half mast. Rather than standing, put the flag at half mast for people who have died, right? So I mentioned Rosa Parks because I thought 60 years ago, she kind of did the same thing. She was getting tired and she wanted to make a statement. And the opportunity presented itself. And many people think that, she was just, she went and sat down in the white section of the bus. Well, she didn't. She was sitting in her assigned section. She was in her black section, the colored section. And a white man got on the bus and wanted to sit down. And so they made a woman who worked hard for her living get up, and they wanted her to leave her seat. And she said, no, I'm tired. I have my seat. I'll just sit here. She got threatened. You guys know the story. I just find it so interesting that just about 60 years later, that happened December 1st, 1955. September 1st, 2016, Colin Kaepernick makes a statement in a very peaceful way, a nonviolent way to say, I've had enough. I want to raise awareness. I would like some change to happen. Can you please help me make some change? And now, almost 4 years later, he's getting what he put out there. Mm-hmm. I think the 4 years between, I think if he had known what was going to grow from that, I don't know. I don't know how he's felt along the way, but I look back and I go, wow, that is just so amazing that has gotten sort of tied in with all the conversations that are happening. So how could it have handled differently? I think nobody really took the time to listen. Mm-hmm. The reason people weren't really listening is because social media blew up. And in this age of social media, 50 years ago, he would have made a statement. It would have been in the newspaper. People would have read it and they would have been, wow, yeah, we do need to pay attention. Instead, social media took over and people began saying, oh, he's disrespecting the flag. This is terrible. He must not be a good American. They completely missed his message. He was clear on what his message was, and it got overridden and hidden by all the social media that followed. His truth got distorted through media chatter. So how could we have handled it differently? We could have paid closer attention to the message and held out his message in ways that would have promoted the message rather than distorted message of, oh, he's just disrespecting the flag. I think, as I said earlier, people need to be listening carefully so that we can hear the concerns. We can hear the truth of what people are going through. The truth of understanding that people of color are often marginalized and oppressed, and they're sometimes wrongfully killed. And we should not be standing for that. That is not what America is about. So I definitely think handling it differently would have been pushing aside the media and the social media especially, and getting more of his truth out there. And then I think what we can learn from it is listen to your heart. The truth lies inside of all of us if we listen, and it gets covered up by a lot of, nonsense. So really listening to your heart, finding your voice when you see an injustice or when you have an opinion about something that is wrong or unjust, and use your voice. I know I've been guilty of not saying enough or thinking, well, it's my opinion. They're not really going to believe me. I think this has really awakened me to using more of my voice, to take a risk, to stand up for what's right. Mm-hmm. I also think a lesson we can take from him is the fact that he was very peaceful. Even though he was misunderstood and criticized and wrongly accused of disrespecting the country, he never was, to my knowledge, was never yelling or rabble-rousing or becoming angry. I think he just felt like, wow, they don't get it yet. So I am going to say that I know that he planted those seeds 4 years ago, and now those seeds they're pushing up out of the ground and they're growing, and people are noticing, which is very beautiful.
Great. Thanks for that perspective, Dee. Would any of our other panelists like to add on this subject of Colin Kaepernick and what he's meant to this whole movement?
Yeah, so in 2017, I got to work a NCAA volleyball regional championship, and one of the young ladies on one of the teams that were playing, she kneeled. She kneeled during the anthem, and the crowd booed and booed and booed. And the whole time, I'm thinking, what's more disrespectful? Y'all booing while it's going on, or her holding her teammate's hands while she's on one knee? And she had a whole letter of why she did it, because she's Black, her family's Black. Like, we're scared for our families. Like, my brother is 6'8". He could walk down the street and scare anybody could feel threatened. And then they're like, we're done with you, and kill him just because he's a big Black man. And that's terrifying for me. And my brother's only 28. He's 28. Is he going to make it to 30? Hopefully. At this point, hopefully.
Great. Thank you.
I have something on the Cap situation. I just want to echo what Dee said. I think if anybody took offense to him making that gesture and taking a knee during the national anthem and taking it as him taking a shot at the people that serve our country, men and women that serve our country, you just kind of missed the point. You went over your head. It wasn't to disrespect anyone. It was to bring notoriety and just shine a light on things that are happening in this country. I don't think trying to disrespect the flag, disrespect anybody that fights for it. I have military friends, and they told me that they were disrespected by that gesture. But everybody understands that if you looked at it as him disrespecting the country or the flag, you kind of were tone deaf to what he was saying. He was just trying to use his platform. Like Dee said, it's a Sunday afternoon. Everybody's watching football at that time. You know, what better time to bring light to that situation than during the national anthem? And he took a stand.
Great. Thanks for that, Coach. For the sake of time, we'll move on to the next topic. Dee mentioned faith without works is dead. That comes from the book of James. And Sharad, we'll let you handle this one and get us started. So what can we do that is actionable to make the kind of change we're looking for to end social injustice? How do we put our faith into works?
There's so much we can do, right? I would say one of the first things that we can do with our faith or whatever we believe is focus. There are so many issues and so many things that we can do that we miss the ability and the opportunity to focus on one specific thing that we can do and do extremely well. So focus on what you're trying to do. Second thing, organize. Who and what can help you get to where you need to go? Who do you need to be talking to? What questions do you need to be asking? What questions needs to be asked of you? So focus, organize, listen to the wisdom of your ancestors. There are people who have walked down this road before, who have had the courage to take a knee, to stand up, to speak out, to say it's wrong, to look fear in the face and say, I'm going to do it anyway. Find your wisdom and realize that if they had the courage to do it, you and the people that come after you may have the courage to do it as well. And finally, if you focus on something, if you find the right people, organize. If you listen to the people before you, finally take a step. Quit talking and take one step. You don't have to do the whole thing at one time. Take a step. And then maybe we'll see what faith really looks like in action.
Thank you for that, Sherrod. And kind of keeping on that theme, Stephanie, I'm going to turn it over to you. What I'd like to hear, and please, the rest of the panelists, feel free to follow up on Stephanie's answer here, is what can people who are not of color do in specific to help make this change happen?
So last week on Wednesday, after I got my thoughts together and my emotions together, I posted this post on Instagram, and I want to read the last part from it. And it says, to all my white brothers and sisters, if you say Black Lives Matter, then you need to get in front of the line, lead, and use your voice. Again, don't stand behind me. stand in front of me. I just feel like we need all of our white brothers and sisters to get in front, take the bullet, use your voice, because I can say it, Destiny can say it, Donald can say it, Sherrod can say it, but until you say it, it's not going to mean anything. They can't hear us. They already can't see us, so they definitely can't hear us.
Mm-hmm.
Would anyone like to add to that as far as, action items for us?
Sherrod, go ahead.
I got you. I think it starts at home at an early age. Like we've all heard and we've all been told, nobody's born with hate in their heart. You're taught that at some point. At some point along the line, somebody told you to hate this person because of the color of their skin. I think once we get away from that, and get to the point where we're judging people off of character instead of what they look like, I think that's when the world becomes a better place.
Sharad has heard me say this a number of times. You can probably almost read my mind, but he has a shirt that says, if you see something, say something. And I love that shirt. The first time I saw it, I think it's for the Atlanta MARTA, but it is so universal, especially with what we're talking about today. I think if everybody would take responsibility for, if you see something, if you hear something, have your voice and say something. Have those courageous conversations.
Destiny, I've got one for you. How do we all become more connected? No matter who we are or where we might come from, regardless of our race, our gender, or sexual preference, sexual identity, our background, as a people, how do we become more connected and break down these barriers?
Education. You need, like somebody said before, don't judge a book by its cover. You need to open up that book and actually take the time to read the past, present, and possible future for that person. Like, you shouldn't judge anybody by, their color of their skin, or if they're a female or male, or who they like or who they want to grow up with. It's really on their personality, their character, what they bring to this world. If you want to, you should connect with people that you feel like you have interest in. It doesn't matter if I'm Black, but if we both want to go into the medical field, this will be a great time for us to both connect. It doesn't matter if the color of my skin, or if you have a teammate. Both y'all love the game of basketball, but you were growing up with this hate in your heart, and now you feel like you can't play with your teammate. That shouldn't be the way that you live your life. You should be able to connect on deeper levels with people to be able to further your career or even your life, to get you farther in life. It's going to only make you a better person and help the world be a better place.
Well said, Destiny. Thank you for that answer. Very well said. Do want to share with you some of the comments that we're getting on Facebook Live. There's Coach Mike Jones, a recent inductee into the Brevard College Athletics Hall of Fame. And, I know someone near and dear, especially to Donald Hudson's heart, but I see a lot of smiles across our screen here when we see Coach Jones and his message. Love this. So thank you, Coach Jones, for tuning in, and appreciate all your work as well. Also, a note from Life at BC. If you don't follow Life at BC on Facebook, be sure to do so. They write, "Thank you guys for speaking on such an important topic. Love this." Thank you for tuning in, Life at BC. And here's a message from Dawn Rouse. "Donald, you're such an amazing leader, and you bring so much more to BC." So great to hear that kind of feedback from NATO Nation towards
Thank you, Don.
head coach Donald Hudson. And Dawn continues, "D, you're an amazing example of unconditional love and being tremendous healing to all." Thank you for those words, Dawn. Jennifer Henley writes, "D, you're a tremendous inspiration to all who know you. We love you, Ray and Jen Henley." Thank you. And from a member of the Brevard College faculty, Jennifer Kafsky, "Thanks to all of you for sharing this important conversation." Thanks for tuning in, Jennifer, and appreciate you all being part of this indeed important conversation. We're really happy to make this happen tonight and shine some light on these important subjects. Before we leave, do want each of you to take as long as you want to kind of give your final thoughts, any sort of, overall message you want to convey, whatever might be on your mind or in your heart. We don't want to, miss anything here. If there's anything that we didn't touch on perhaps tonight, feel free to go into that as well. And once again, we'll start with our student athlete, women's basketball student athlete, rising senior, headed into her senior year, and SAAC representative Destiny Williams. Destiny, final thoughts for us?
For everybody out there in the world, I would definitely say try to make a stand. Even if you can't go out and protest, there are things that people are doing on social media or out in the world. Like I believe July 7th, I think that's the date. They say don't do any shopping. They want us to have a powerful message across the world, across the nation. So even if you can't go out because you, like me, have to work, do something, stand up for something. So when if this ever blows over in the long run, you can say that you were a part of that.
Very good. Thank you, Destiny, and thank you for making time for this program tonight. Can't wait to see you back on campus and at the Boshemer Gymnasium, getting some basketball action going. Dee, why don't we send it to you next? Associate Dean of Students, Coordinator for Counseling Services at Brevard College. Final thoughts, Dee.
Yeah, I think if you've listened to this broadcast, please share it with a lot of different people in your lives, family members, friends. I think we're going to be sending it out to a lot of our college community. I believe it'll be on YouTube. So again, as we've been saying, have those conversations, be courageous, speak your truth, walk in front. If you're white, walk in front. I love what you said, Stephanie, catch those bullets. It's really, really powerful. I'm very grateful to have been invited to be a part of this panel and to work with all of you. So thank you. And thank you, Phil, for doing this.
Thank you, Dee. Coach Hudson, final thoughts.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank you, Phil, for organizing and putting this together and letting us use this platform to convey this important message. One thing I want everybody to take away from this is use your voice. Use your voice. Like Dee said about Sherrod's shirt, if you see something that's not right, say something. Don't say anything. You're just as much a part of the problem as the people doing it. So use your voice, step up, just get the hate out of your heart. Get the hate out of your heart and get to know people before you judge them. Get to know people before you judge them, and the world would be a lot better place if everybody just loved each other. I know that's cliche, but it's true.
Thank you, Coach Hudson. Stephanie Johnson, Assistant AD and Senior Woman Administrator at Brevard College. What's on your mind as we start to see the finish line on this program?
I don't think I've actually said this on the broadcast, but I just wanted to tell all the Black people, all the people of color, now is not the time to discredit white people's anger. We need them to be angry. We need them to fight for us. So encourage it, stand by them, educate them, let them know your pain so they can feel it with you or try to empathize with you, because we need them. And I just want to encourage everyone, now is the time to listen, get educated, and like Donald said and everyone else is saying, use your voice. Do not be silent. I myself am no longer going to be silent because silence has held me back for far too long, and I'm done with her. She can go. I need everybody else to drop her. We're done with her.
Thank you, Stephanie. And we'll have the final word. We'll give it to our campus minister, Sharad Creasman. Sherrod.
Don't forget. Don't let this moment come and go, and we forget about it until something else happens. Remember those who have sacrificed, who have died senselessly, and be encouraged to do something, anything about it.
Great. Thank you, Sharad. And thank you to this wonderful panel for helping us shine some light on this important topic at this time and place. Hopefully we've done some sort of small part in moving the needle here in the right direction. And want to thank our audience as well for tuning in. This will be available via replay on both Facebook at Brevard College Tornado Athletics, the Facebook page, as well as the YouTube account, Brevard College Tornado Athletics. And you can also follow us at BC Tornadoes on Instagram and Twitter. And thanks again for being here for this special edition of Tornado Talk, a discussion of peace, justice, and healing. Thank you for tuning in.